The human groom's hidden power left the alien queen stunned. HFY Stories. The air smelled sweet and strange, like a mix of flowers and something metallic. It was quiet, almost too quiet, except for the soft buzzing of enormous insects flying overhead. Ethan looked around at the towering crystalline trees that glowed in soft blues and purples. The light from the trees cast long shadows across the strange buildings that rose like glass spires in the distance. He had never seen a place like this. He adjusted the straps of his small satchel and took a deep breath. Today was not just any day. Today, he would meet the alien queen, Zalathra. The humans had negotiated a peace treaty with the Chthons, and part of it included a ceremonial marriage. Ethan had been chosen as the human groom. It was a position he never wanted, yet here he was. He felt nervous, though he tried not to show it. Humans were considered weak by many alien species, and he could feel their eyes on him as he walked. A tall alien approached him, her skin a shimmering green with scales that caught the light. Her eyes were bright gold, and they stared at him with curiosity and suspicion. "You are Ethan Clark?" she asked in a voice that sounded like wind over crystal. Ethan nodded, trying to remain calm. "Yes," he said, "I am." "You must follow me," she said. Ethan nodded again and followed her. The alien moved gracefully, almost floating across the glowing ground. Ethan had to walk carefully, not wanting to trip over the uneven terrain. He noticed small creatures darting between the trees, moving so fast that he barely saw them. The air vibrated with life, and Ethan realized that this world was very different from Earth. Every step he took seemed to make the ground hum beneath him. They reached a large palace that shimmered like it was made of light. The walls glowed softly, and Ethan could see strange symbols etched into them. He had never seen architecture like this. The alien queen lived here, and the thought made his stomach tighten. He tried to remind himself to stay calm. Humans were known for intelligence and adaptability, he told himself, and that was his strength. The palace doors opened silently, and the alien led him inside. The air smelled even sweeter here, and soft music played from nowhere, filling the space with a gentle hum. Ethan stepped cautiously, noticing the crystal floors that reflected his own image. He felt small, a tiny human in a world of giants. As they walked through the halls, Ethan saw many other aliens, some towering over him, others with multiple limbs or eyes. They all stared at him. He could feel their judgment. Humans were often thought weak, and he knew they were waiting for him to fail. He kept his head high and walked steadily, trying not to show fear. Finally, they reached a large chamber filled with light. In the center, on a raised platform, sat Queen Zalathra. She was enormous, taller than any human could ever imagine, with golden eyes that seemed to pierce right through him. Her body was elegant, covered in scales that glimmered like gemstones. She did not speak, but Ethan could feel her eyes on him, watching every movement. The alien attendants around her murmured in their strange language. Ethan could not understand their words, but the tone was clear: doubt. They whispered that humans were small, fragile, and unfit for the honor of standing beside a queen. Ethan took a deep breath, steadying himself. He had faced challenges before, though none like this. He reminded himself that he had survived dangerous missions on Earth, explored hostile terrains, and always found a way to succeed. He was not weak, even if the galaxy thought he was. Zalathra finally spoke, her voice low and musical. "Human," she said, "stand before me." Ethan stepped forward, keeping his posture straight. He could feel every eye in the chamber on him. Some stared with curiosity, others with disdain. He held his ground. "I am Ethan Clark," he said calmly. "I am here to honor the agreement between our peoples." The queen's eyes narrowed slightly as if studying him. "You are small," she said. "Your people are weak. Why should you be worthy of standing by my side?" Ethan felt a flicker of anger, but he controlled it. "Strength is not always in size or power," he said. "It is in thought, in action, and in courage. I have survived situations that would have destroyed many, and I can protect what I value." There was a pause. The queen tilted her head, studying him as if seeing him for the first time. Ethan held her gaze, feeling the weight of centuries of alien expectation pressing on him. He could almost feel the history of Krythos in the chamber, every queen before her judging him silently. The attendants whispered again. Ethan realized that his calm and steady voice had caught the queen's attention, even if her court did not yet respect him. He tried not to look at the whispers, focusing instead on the queen. He had always known humans were underestimated. Now was his chance to prove it. The ceremony began. Aliens in flowing robes carried glowing objects and chanted in harmony. Ethan followed the queen as instructed, walking carefully across the crystalline floor. He noticed the delicate balance of energy in the room. Every step he took seemed to resonate with the palace, and he felt a strange connection to the place, like the ground itself acknowledged his presence. Suddenly, there was a sound of movement outside. A group of territorial beasts had entered the ceremonial grounds. They were large, insect-like creatures with sharp claws and glowing eyes. Panic spread among the attendants. Many froze in fear, unsure what to do. The queen's eyes narrowed, expecting Ethan to panic as well. Ethan did not move like the others. Instead, he observed the creatures carefully. He noticed their patterns, the way they moved in unison, and the slight hesitation in their steps. Using what he had learned from surviving dangerous situations on Earth, he quickly pointed and gave calm instructions to the attendants, guiding them to form barriers and move to safety. The beasts lunged, but Ethan anticipated their moves. Using simple tools and energy barriers provided for the ceremony, he created traps that safely contained the creatures without hurting them. The attendants watched in awe as the humans' logic and quick thinking kept everyone safe. Even the queen's eyes widened slightly in surprise. When the last of the creatures was contained, the chamber fell silent. Ethan's heart was pounding, but he kept his expression calm. He knew the aliens were staring, trying to understand how such a small human could handle such a dangerous situation so easily. Zalithra spoke again, her voice quieter this time. "You acted well," she said. "Perhaps there is more to your people than I thought." Ethan bowed slightly, a gesture of respect. "I only acted to protect everyone," he said. "Strength is not always what it seems. Even a small being can make a difference." The attendants whispered again, this time with excitement instead of doubt. Ethan noticed some of them nodding in respect, their previous disdain replaced with curiosity. The queen watched him closely, her golden eyes studying every detail. Ethan could feel that her opinion of humans was beginning to change, though he did not yet know how much. The rest of the ceremony continued, but Ethan felt a sense of calm now. He had survived the first test, though he knew more challenges awaited. He looked at Zalithra, and for the first time, he saw a hint of admiration in her expression. The queen was surprised, yes, but also intrigued. As the ceremony ended and the attendants began to leave, Ethan took a moment to look around the palace once more. The glowing trees outside seemed even brighter now, and the soft hum of the planet filled him with a strange sense of connection. He realized that this world was not just beautiful, it was alive, and he was now a part of it, however small. For the first time, he felt that humans were not just weak, fragile beings in the eyes of the galaxy. They were underestimated, yes, but also capable of incredible things. And in this moment, standing before an alien queen who had never seen a human like him, Ethan Clarke understood that his life would never be the same. He did not yet know the full extent of the challenges he would face, nor the hidden powers he would eventually reveal, but he knew one thing for certain: he was not weak. Humans might seem small, but they had courage, intelligence, and resilience. And that was something even a queen could not ignore. Ethan took a deep breath, steadying himself for what was to come. He would need all his skills, all his knowledge and all his calm determination to survive in this world of giants. But for the first time, he felt ready. As the palace doors closed behind the last attendants, Ethan stood alone for a moment, looking out at the glowing forests of Krythos. The stars above sparkled like diamonds in the sky, and he felt a strange sense of destiny pressing on him. This was not just a ceremony or a marriage, it was the beginning of something greater. Ethan Clarke, the human groom, smiled quietly to himself. The galaxy might underestimate him now, but soon they would see that humans were capable of far more than anyone imagined. The morning light of Krythos filtered through the crystal walls of the palace, bathing the hallways in a soft blue glow. Ethan Clarke awoke in the guest chamber prepared for him. The room was simple, yet elegant, with a large window that looked out over the glowing forests. He sat on the edge of the bed for a moment, taking a deep breath. Yesterday had been intense, and he could still feel the weight of 100 alien eyes on him. Yet he had survived, and the Queen's cautious respect was something he could sense, even if she had not said it aloud. Breakfast was brought to him by a small alien servant with 6 delicate limbs. The food was strange, glowing slightly in green and purple hues. Ethan examined it carefully, picking at it slowly, not wanting to offend. He had learned quickly that humans needed to respect the customs of alien worlds. Eating without care could be seen as rude, or worse, as a sign of weakness. He tried a small bite, then another, and soon he was able to eat comfortably, even enjoying the unusual flavors. After breakfast, the Queen summoned him. Ethan felt a flicker of anxiety. Walking through the palace corridors, he saw many attendants and soldiers preparing for the day's events. Some stared at him with suspicion, while others seemed to be quietly amused at the idea that a human could be part of such an important ceremony. He kept his head high, reminding himself that humans had survived challenges far greater than this. When he entered the Queen's chamber, Zalithra was already seated on her throne-like platform. Her golden eyes followed his every movement. She gestured for him to approach. Ethan walked steadily, feeling the hum of the palace beneath his feet. "You handled yesterday well," she said. Her voice was calm but carried the weight of authority. "Yet I remain uncertain. Humans are small and their strength is often questioned. Show me why you are worthy of this position." Ethan nodded. "I will do my best," he said. But strength is not always shown through force. Sometimes it is in thought, planning, and understanding. Yesterday I used what I knew to protect everyone. The Queen's eyes narrowed slightly, studying him. "I will see more," she said. "There will be tests today. I want to see how you handle more than simple crises." Ethan understood. This was more than a test of strength. It was a test of intelligence, adaptability, and calm under pressure. Humans were known for being underestimated, but he had survived by thinking carefully, planning ahead, and staying calm. He would continue to do so. The first challenge came quickly. The Queen led him to a large training ground outside the palace. The ground was uneven, filled with glowing rocks and strange plant life. Several alien cadets were already there, stretching and preparing for exercises. Many of them had multiple limbs or were taller than any human could imagine. Ethan could feel their eyes on him, watching closely, waiting for him to fail. The first exercise was simple on the surface. The cadets were asked to cross a dangerous terrain while avoiding natural hazards and collecting energy crystals that were scattered across the ground. These crystals were fragile and many would break if handled roughly. The Queen's instructions were clear: collect as many as possible while staying safe. Ethan observed carefully. He noticed patterns in the placement of the crystals and the movement of small creatures that lived in the terrain. While the alien cadets rushed forward, eager to show off their strength and speed, Ethan moved calmly and steadily. He took his time, picking up crystals carefully and avoiding unnecessary risks. Some of the cadets sneered at him. "Slow human," one said, their voice high-pitched and mocking. You will fail before you reach the first crystal. Ethan ignored them, keeping his focus. He noticed a small area where the crystals were clustered, but also surrounded by dangerous thorn-like plants. While the others hesitated, Ethan used a small device from his satchel, a simple tool he had developed on Earth, to create a small shield that allowed him to reach the crystals safely. He worked quickly, collecting more crystals than most of the cadets. The Queen watched silently. Ethan could feel her eyes on him, and he sensed a flicker of surprise in them. Humans were not supposed to be so careful, so intelligent, so clever. Yet here he was, moving calmly while the others stumbled or injured themselves. Next came a test of reflexes. The cadets were required to dodge fast-moving obstacles that shot across the ground. The obstacles were not lethal, but they were heavy and could knock a competitor out of the exercise. Many cadets relied on speed alone, leaping and twisting wildly. Ethan remembered lessons from Earth: observe patterns, anticipate movement, stay calm, and he began to move with precision. He timed each jump, each duck, each step with care. The obstacles moved faster than his eyes expected, yet he kept steady, predicting their path before they arrived. By the end of the exercise, he had avoided almost every obstacle, impressing even the skeptical attendants. A few murmurs of admiration passed through the crowd, though most tried to hide it. The third challenge was mental. A holographic puzzle appeared in the center of the training ground. Lights flashed and shifted, creating a complex pattern that needed to be rearranged to unlock a door. Many cadets approached it aggressively, trying to force the pieces into place without understanding the rules. Ethan stepped back, observing the puzzle. He noticed subtle hints in the shifting lights, small patterns that indicated the correct order. He began moving the pieces slowly, deliberately, taking his time to think. Other cadets became frustrated, shouting and pushing pieces without care. Ethan's hands moved quickly and efficiently. Within minutes, the puzzle was solved and the door opened smoothly. A hush fell over the training ground as the Queen's attendants stared. Zalathra's golden eyes met Ethan's. For the first time, she spoke with a note of curiosity. "You are not like the others," she said. "Your people rely on thought and patience, not just physical might. That is unusual." Ethan bowed slightly. "It is how we survive," he said. "We adapt, we plan, and we use what we have. Strength can be more than size or force." The Queen nodded, though her expression remained cautious. "Interesting, but there is more to be tested. You will face creatures and challenges that cannot be solved by thought alone. You will need to act, and quickly." Ethan understood. He had faced dangerous creatures before, but he had never done so in front of an audience of aliens who expected him to fail. He felt a spark of determination. Humans had been underestimated for centuries. Now, he had the chance to show why that was a mistake. The next exercise was more dangerous. Small creatures, similar to the ones that had disrupted the ceremony, were released into the training ground. They moved quickly, aggressively, and unpredictably. Many cadets froze, unsure how to react. Others attacked with brute force, trying to overpower the creatures. Ethan did not panic. He observed, noting their movement patterns and tendencies. He remembered what he had learned from Earth: creatures are predictable if you pay attention. Using simple hand gestures and his small devices, he guided the creatures into traps without harming them. The cadets watched in disbelief as the human moved calmly while others struggled or panicked. After the creatures were contained, Zalathra spoke again. "You act with precision and intelligence, yet you are small and your people are fragile. How can you protect those you care for when brute strength is needed?" Ethan thought carefully. "Strength is not always about size or power," he said. "It is about knowing what to do, when to do it, and how to use what you have. Humans may be small, but we survive in ways others do not expect. That is our strength." There was a pause. The Queen's golden eyes studied him deeply, as if trying to understand a new concept. Ethan could feel the weight of her scrutiny, but he stood firm. He knew that humans had always been underestimated, and he would not give her the satisfaction of seeing fear. The rest of the day passed with exercises, tests, and challenges. Ethan remained calm, focused, and thoughtful. While other cadets relied on speed, size, or aggression, he used patience, observation, and clever tactics. By the end of the day, he had earned the cautious respect of some attendants, though others still whispered doubts. Zalithra observed everything, her expression unreadable. Yet Ethan could sense a change. Where there had been doubt yesterday, there was now curiosity. The Queen had expected a weak, frightened human. Instead, she had seen someone clever, calm, and capable. It was a small victory, but an important one. As the sun set over Krythos, the glowing forests casting long shadows across the palace grounds, Ethan Clarke stood quietly, reflecting on the day. He had survived tests that would have broken many others. He had earned a measure of respect from a species that had never truly valued humans. He knew more challenges awaited. The Queen's tests were not over, and the galaxy still saw humans as weak. But he also knew this. Humans were underestimated for a reason. Their hidden strengths, intelligence, and adaptability were often invisible at first glance. And today, he had begun to show that to the Krythons. Ethan smiled quietly to himself. Tomorrow would bring new tests, new challenges, and perhaps new dangers. But he felt ready. Humans had survived against impossible odds before, and he would continue to prove why they should never be doubted. For now, he looked out over the glowing forests and allowed himself a brief moment of calm. The Queen was watching, the cadets were whispering, and the galaxy still underestimated him. But that was all about to change. The morning sun on Krythos painted the palace walls in soft purples and blues. Ethan Clarke woke early, feeling the quiet energy of the world around him. The air smelled of strange flowers, sharp yet sweet, and the soft hum of the planet's life vibrated beneath his feet. He had slept little the night before, thinking about the Queen's tests and what the day might bring. Each challenge had been met with calm observation, careful thought, and patience. The other cadets were faster, bigger, or stronger, yet he had outsmarted most of them without showing fear. He dressed carefully in the clothes provided for him, simple garments that allowed freedom of movement. A small satchel hung at his side, holding the tools and devices he had brought from Earth. No one had seen them yet, and he intended to keep it that way until the right moment. He knew humans were underestimated across the galaxy. That had been their greatest advantage. He had survived hostile planets, hostile creatures, and hostile humans by thinking first and acting carefully. He would continue to do so. The Queen summoned him to her chambers again. As he walked through the palace corridors, he noticed the subtle changes. Some attendants who had whispered doubts now looked at him with cautious curiosity. A few even gave small nods of respect as he passed. The Queen's gaze was the same as always, golden, sharp, and impossible to read. But Ethan felt something shift behind it. She was intrigued. "You are ready for the next stage," Zalithra said as he entered. Her voice was calm but firm. "Today you will face challenges that are not simple exercises. You will need to act quickly, adapt, and survive." Ethan nodded. "I understand," he said. "I will do my best." The Queen waved her hand and the walls of the chamber shimmered. A large, holographic map appeared in the center of the room. Ethan stepped closer, studying it carefully. The map showed a dense forest with moving symbols representing creatures, traps, and unknown hazards. Zalithra's voice explained the task: retrieve a device located in the center of the forest and return safely. Many cadets groaned. The forest was known for being unpredictable, dangerous, and filled with creatures that had never been fully cataloged. Ethan studied the map. He noticed patterns in the creatures' movement, gaps between hazards, and possible shortcuts that others had ignored. While the other cadets relied on strength and speed, he relied on observation and planning. The Queen nodded. "Begin," she said. The cadets rushed forward. Most moved recklessly, crashing through foliage and alerting creatures with their noise. Ethan stayed back for a moment, letting the others go first. He studied their movements, noting where they stumbled and where the creatures were drawn. Then he moved quietly, deliberately, using small hand signals and subtle tools to create barriers that diverted the creatures without harming them. As he moved deeper into the forest, he encountered a narrow path blocked by thorny vines that reacted to touch. Larger cadets had tried to force their way through and failed, cutting themselves on the sharp thorns. Ethan examined the plants, noticing small gaps and pressure points. Using a small cutting tool from his satchel, he carefully pried open the path just enough to pass without touching the dangerous thorns. He smiled quietly to himself. Humans might be small, but careful hands and patience could overcome many obstacles. Soon he reached a small clearing where a strange device floated in the center, glowing softly. He approached slowly, sensing the presence of hidden defenses. There were small drones, nearly invisible, hovering around the device. Any sudden movement would trigger alarms. Ethan crouched and carefully studied their patterns. He noticed that the drones followed a repeating path, leaving brief gaps that he could move through safely. With precise timing, he moved, using his small gadgets to create decoys that distracted the drones. One by one, they drifted away from the device, and Ethan reached out to grab it. The device felt heavy in his hands, but he carried it carefully, avoiding triggering any alarms. He could feel the weight of the other cadets' failures behind him. Many had rushed, fallen, or been chased away. Ethan's calm and patience had allowed him to succeed where others had not. The queen watched silently from the palace, her golden eyes narrowing. She had expected him to struggle, to fail, yet he moved with confidence, intelligence, and control. She had underestimated humans, and she realized that they were capable of far more than her people believed. Ethan began the journey back through the forest. He had expected the creatures to follow him, but he noticed something unusual. The creatures moved differently, as if testing him, observing his reactions. Ethan slowed his pace, taking deep breaths and remaining calm. He remembered what he had learned on Earth. When dealing with unknown life forms, fear and haste were dangerous. Observation and careful action were the best weapons. Suddenly, a large creature lunged from the trees. It was massive, with thick armor-like skin and glowing red eyes. Many cadets would have panicked or attacked recklessly. Ethan froze for a moment, assessing. He noticed that the creature moved in a predictable pattern, relying on its size and strength rather than intelligence. Using a small device in his satchel, he emitted a sound frequency that distracted the creature just long enough to step aside and continue on his path. The creature roared but did not pursue aggressively. Ethan smiled quietly. Once again, humans relied not on brute force but on cleverness, strategy, and patience. He had learned to use what he had, adapt, and survive. That was human strength. As he approached the edge of the forest, he noticed several cadets trapped by smaller creatures. They were panicked, shouting, and trying to fight without thought. Ethan moved carefully, using his gadgets and understanding of patterns to create a safe path for them. Some looked at him in surprise, realizing that a human was helping them succeed while they had struggled alone. Finally, he reached the clearing where the queen waited. He approached calmly, holding the device carefully. The other cadets had either failed or barely managed to return. Ethan had succeeded, not through speed, strength, or aggression, but through observation, patience, and clever use of tools. Zalithra rose slightly from her throne, her golden eyes fixed on him. "Human," she said, her voice carrying curiosity and a hint of awe, "you have done what many of my strongest cadets could not. You act with intelligence and calm, yet you hold a strength that is not obvious. What is this power you carry?" Ethan smiled faintly. "It is not a power in the usual sense," he said. "It is careful thought, patience, and using what is available. Humans have survived many dangers because we think, adapt, and remain calm. That is our strength." The queen studied him silently, as if trying to understand something she had never seen before. The attendants whispered among themselves, clearly impressed and confused. Many had expected the human to fail, yet here he stood, holding the device and remaining calm while others struggled. "Perhaps I have judged your people too harshly," Zalathra said at last. "You are not like the humans I have known through history or rumor. You are different." Ethan nodded. "We are underestimated often," he said, "but we survive, we adapt, and we do what is necessary." The queen's expression softened slightly, though her authority remained strong. "You will face greater challenges still," she said. "Not all problems can be solved with thought alone, but today you have shown that intelligence, calm, and strategy are as valuable as size and strength. You have impressed me." Ethan bowed slightly, feeling a small sense of accomplishment. He had survived another test, and more importantly, he had begun to earn the queen's respect. Humans were often overlooked, underestimated, and dismissed. Today, he had shown that they could achieve what others thought impossible. The rest of the day passed with discussions, planning sessions, and smaller exercises. Ethan continued to show calm judgment, clever problem-solving, and adaptability. The queen observed him closely, noting each action, each decision, and each moment of restraint. She had expected a weak, frightened human. Instead, she saw someone capable, intelligent, and surprisingly confident. As night fell over Krythos, Ethan stood by the window in his chamber once again. The forests glowed softly, and the hum of the planet filled the air. He reflected on the day. He had faced creatures, puzzles, and dangerous terrain, yet he had succeeded where others had struggled. He realized that humans' greatest strength was often hidden. Our patience, adaptability, and cleverness allowed us to survive challenges that brute force could not overcome. Ethan knew more tests awaited him. The queen's challenges would grow more dangerous, more unpredictable. But he also knew this. Humans were underestimated because their true strengths were not obvious at first glance. The galaxy would see their capabilities, and he was determined to be the example that proved it. He placed a hand on the small device he had retrieved, feeling its weight. This was not just a tool, it was a symbol of what humans could accomplish. Even small humans, underestimated and overlooked, could achieve great things with patience, thought, and clever use of resources. Ethan Clarke smiled quietly to himself. The queen had begun to see it. The other cadets had begun to notice it, and the galaxy would soon see it too. Humans were small, yes, but they were clever, adaptable, and strong in ways others did not yet understand. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new tests, and new opportunities to prove humanity's hidden strength. Ethan was ready. He had survived the forest, outsmarted dangerous creatures, solved puzzles, and helped others. His calm, careful nature and clever thinking had earned him the queen's attention and respect. For the first time, he allowed himself a small sense of pride. He was a human, underestimated by most, yet capable of extraordinary things, and this was only the beginning. Ethan Clarke looked out at the glowing forests of Krythos, the stars sparkling above. He felt a quiet determination settle in his chest. Humans had survived impossible odds before. They would continue to survive, adapt, and achieve greatness. And one day, even the most skeptical alien queens would have no choice but to acknowledge their power. The sky over Krythos was filled with streaks of pale orange and violet as the sun rose, casting a strange glow across the palace grounds. Ethan Clarke woke slowly, feeling the tension of the day ahead. He had faced puzzles, creatures, and treacherous terrain, and he knew the queen would not let him rest. Zalathra's tests were designed to push him beyond limits, to see how a human would react under real danger. He dressed in his simple garments, fastening the small satchel at his side. Inside were the few tools he carried, devices from Earth that he had adapted to help him survive in unusual situations. He knew that today, he might need more than just careful thought. Today, he might need to show a strength that no one could have expected. When he entered the Queen's chambers, Zalathra was waiting, standing tall and majestic. Her golden eyes seemed sharper than ever, focusing on him with intensity. "Today," she said, "you will face the ultimate test. It will challenge not only your mind but your body, your courage, and your ability to survive against overwhelming odds. Many have failed before you. Some have never returned." Ethan nodded, feeling a quiet calm settle over him. "I understand," he said. "I will do my best." The Queen gestured and the walls of the chamber shifted, revealing a shimmering portal. Through it, Ethan could see a vast landscape filled with jagged cliffs, deep chasms, and swirling energy storms. The air seemed to ripple with heat and power, and he could sense the presence of large, dangerous creatures moving in the distance. This was no ordinary test. "You must reach the center of this territory," Zalathra explained. "Retrieve the core device and return here without being captured or destroyed. The creatures will try to stop you, the environment will try to destroy you, and only your wits and skills will keep you alive." Ethan stepped forward carefully, feeling the weight of the challenge. He could see the other cadets hesitating, their faces filled with fear. Many were tall, strong, and armed, yet they looked uncertain in the face of this unpredictable environment. Ethan felt a quiet confidence. He had survived dangerous situations on Earth. He had adapted, observed, and used clever tactics to overcome stronger opponents. He could do the same here. The moment he stepped through the portal, the world around him changed. The ground was jagged and uneven, with glowing cracks that seemed to pulse with energy. The air was thick and electric, making each breath feel heavy. Ethan moved cautiously, scanning the area for threats. Large creatures emerged from the shadows, moving silently but with deadly intent. The first of the creatures lunged at him, its claws sharp and glowing. Ethan dodged quickly, rolling to the side and using a small device to create a temporary shield. The creature struck the barrier, confused and frustrated, giving him enough time to move forward. He realized that brute force would not win here. Observation, timing, and clever use of his tools would be his strength. As he navigated the dangerous terrain, he noticed patterns in the creature's movement. They were fast but predictable in their aggression. Using small gadgets from his satchel, he created distractions, decoys, and temporary barriers that allowed him to pass safely. Other cadets were already falling behind, panicked and injured. Ethan moved steadily, his calm mind guiding every step. He reached a narrow chasm next, a deep fissure in the ground with no visible bridge. Across it, he could see the faint glow of the core device. Many would have tried to jump or climb recklessly, risking death. Ethan studied the chasm carefully, noticing thin energy beams that arched across it, pulsating with light. He realized they formed a pattern, a natural bridge that could support careful movement. He stepped onto the first beam, testing it carefully. It held. He moved slowly, maintaining balance and observing the energy patterns. Halfway across, a large creature leapt at him from the shadows. Ethan barely had time to react. Using a small gadget, he created a flash of light and sound that startled the creature, causing it to miss its leap. He ran the remaining distance, reaching the center safely. The core device floated in a column of glowing light. Ethan approached it and examined it carefully. It was complex, but he understood its function. Using precise movements, he deactivated the defensive field around it and secured it in his satchel. He had succeeded in reaching the goal, but the journey back would be even more dangerous. As he turned to leave, the environment shifted. Energy storms began to swirl around him, moving faster and growing more intense. Lightning-like energy arcs leapt from the ground, and the temperature seemed to rise sharply. The creatures became more aggressive, sensing his success. Ethan could feel the pressure of the challenge weighing on him, but he did not panic. He moved carefully, using his gadgets to create shields and diversions. A large creature with armored scales charged at him, but Ethan used its momentum against it, guiding it into a trap of energy beams. He moved with precision, understanding the balance between risk and safety. Every step was calculated, every action deliberate. The queen observed from the palace, her golden eyes widening. She had expected panic, failure, or brute force attempts. Instead, she saw a human moving calmly, cleverly, and with extraordinary skill. She could not hide her surprise. Humans were supposed to be small, fragile, and weak. Yet here was one navigating impossible terrain, facing deadly creatures, and surviving where the strongest aliens struggled. Ethan approached a narrow canyon where several creatures blocked the path. Most cadets would have turned back or fought desperately, but he paused. Observing, he noticed a small hidden path along the cliffside. It was narrow and dangerous, but it would allow him to bypass the creatures. Carefully, he moved along the path, feeling the edges crumble under his feet. One slip would be fatal. He took deep breaths, focusing on balance and timing. Halfway along the cliffside, a creature lunged from below, claws extended. Ethan twisted at the last second, using a small device to create a flash that startled it. He jumped to a safer ledge, barely avoiding its grasp. His heart raced, but he remained calm. Humans were underestimated because their true strengths were hidden. They survived by using their minds, their tools, and their patience. That was what he was doing now. Finally, he reached the edge of the forest, the portal to the queen's chamber visible ahead. He was not yet safe. The creatures had regrouped and were pursuing aggressively. Ethan adjusted his satchel, checking the core device. Using another small gadget, he created a series of decoys, sending them in different directions. The creatures attacked the decoys, giving him a clear path. He ran, jumping over obstacles and using energy barriers to block attacks. The portal shimmered ahead and he pushed forward, every ounce of strength and focus guiding him. A massive creature charged at him from behind. Ethan barely had time to react. Using precise timing, he activated a device that emitted a pulse, knocking the creature off balance and giving him the final seconds to reach the portal. With a deep breath, he stepped through. The portal closed behind him, and he collapsed briefly, exhausted but alive. The queen approached, her golden eyes fixed on him. She studied every detail, the sweat on his brow, the dirt on his clothes, the calm yet determined expression on his face. "You survived," she said, her voice filled with awe. "No one has ever returned from that challenge without injury, and most do not return at all. How did you do it?" Ethan looked at her calmly. "I observed, adapted, and used what I had," he said. "Humans are underestimated because our strength is not obvious. We survive by thinking, planning, and using every resource available. Size and brute force are not the only ways to succeed." The queen took a step back, her expression unreadable. This is unlike anything I expected. Humans are clever, patient, and capable of surviving dangers beyond reason. You have hidden power I did not foresee." Ethan nodded. "It is not magic or strength alone," he said. "It is intelligence, observation, and determination. That is what humans rely on." Zalithra remained silent for a long moment, then spoke again. "Perhaps I have misjudged your people. You are not weak. You are extraordinary in ways my people cannot easily understand." Ethan smiled faintly. "We are underestimated," he said. "That is often our advantage." The attendants whispered among themselves, amazed and confused. Many had expected failure, and yet here was a single human, small and seemingly fragile, who had survived the ultimate challenge. The queen's admiration was clear, though she would not admit it openly. Ethan Clarke had survived the impossible, not by strength alone, but by intelligence, patience, and clever use of tools. He had begun to show the galaxy that humans were not to be underestimated. And Zalathra, the alien queen, was beginning to understand that her assumptions about humans had been wrong. As night fell, Ethan rested, feeling the weight of the day pressing on him. He had faced dangers no other human, or alien, had survived without injury. He had proven that humans' hidden strengths were real and extraordinary. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but for now, he allowed himself a quiet sense of accomplishment. He looked out at the glowing forests of Krythos, the stars sparkling above, and felt a deep, calm certainty. Humans might seem small, fragile, and weak, but their true power lay hidden. It was intelligence, patience, creativity, and determination. And today, he had shown a glimpse of that power to an alien queen who would never forget it. Ethan Clarke smiled quietly. The tests were not over and greater challenges awaited, but he was ready. Humans had survived impossible odds before, and they would continue to do so. And the queen, who had once doubted him, would now see the beginnings of the true power of humanity. The sky above Krythos was dark and full of stars, but the palace glowed with a soft, golden light. Ethan Clarke stood in the main chamber, holding the satchel with the core device he had retrieved from the dangerous forest. The queen, Zalathra, sat on her elevated platform, her golden eyes fixed on him. The air was thick with anticipation. Everyone in the palace waited, whispering quietly, wondering what the human would do next. Ethan could feel their eyes on him, the weight of centuries of alien assumptions pressing down. They had expected him to fail. They had expected him to be weak. And yet he had survived the impossible tests, solved puzzles, avoided deadly creatures, and returned from challenges that would have destroyed anyone else. But he knew the final test was not just about survival. It was about showing the queen the hidden strength of humans in a way no one would forget. He opened his satchel carefully. Inside were several small devices, each no larger than a fist, made of Earth technology he had adapted. To the aliens, they looked simple and fragile, nothing that could impress a queen. But Ethan knew better. These devices were designed to amplify energy, control environmental hazards, and even redirect attacks with precision. They were the culmination of human ingenuity, small tools that could accomplish what brute strength alone could not. Zalathra rose slightly from her throne. "Human," she said, her voice calm but carrying authority, "you have returned from the ultimate challenge alive. That alone is remarkable, but now you must show me your final power. Prove to me why your species is not to be underestimated." Ethan nodded. "I will," he said quietly. He set the devices carefully on the floor and stepped back. He activated the first device, and a soft blue light began to pulse, extending outward in a protective field. The attendants gasped. The light was subtle but strong, creating a barrier that no creature or energy could penetrate. Ethan smiled. Humans were small, but their tools could magnify their abilities far beyond their size. The queen's eyes widened slightly. "Interesting," she said, "but show me more." Ethan activated the second device. A holographic map of the palace appeared above it, showing every hidden corridor, every weak point in the walls, and every potential hazard. He adjusted it with small movements of his hands, and the map changed in real time, predicting movements of creatures and even subtle shifts in the palace's energy fields. The attendants whispered in shock. No alien had ever demonstrated this level of precision and foresight with such small tools. The queen leaned forward. "And what is this, human? How can such small objects hold such power?" Ethan smiled faintly. "They are not magic," he said. "They are tools designed to amplify what humans already do. We observe, we plan, and we act with precision. Size is not always strength. Intelligence, creativity, and careful action can achieve far more than brute force." He activated the third device, and a soft hum filled the room. Energy beams arced across the chamber, forming a grid that he controlled with his hands. A small object on the floor rolled toward him, and he guided it along the beams with perfect accuracy. Even Zalathra was silent, watching carefully. The grid could control movement, redirect attacks, and neutralize hazards, all with precision that the aliens could hardly imagine. Suddenly, the palace doors burst open. Creatures from the final test had been released inside, a final challenge meant to test his courage and skill. Many attendants froze, unsure what to do. The Queen's eyes narrowed, observing whether the human would panic. Ethan did not move hastily. He activated the devices in sequence, creating barriers and guides for the creatures. He manipulated energy fields to divert them harmlessly, trapping them without hurting them. The creatures lunged, but every movement was anticipated and controlled. The attendants whispered in awe. They had expected chaos, panic, and failure. Instead, they watched a human calmly manage impossible dangers with skill and intelligence. The Queen's golden eyes glowed with curiosity and respect. "This is unlike anything I have ever seen," she said. "Your people are clever, yes, but this is extraordinary." Ethan activated the final device. A large, soft light expanded across the room, connecting the energy grids and devices into one seamless system. The creatures froze, confused by the sudden shift in energy. Ethan directed them gently toward the portal leading back to the forest, allowing them to leave without harm. Every action was precise, deliberate, and controlled. Humans might be small, but their intelligence, patience, and ingenuity allowed them to achieve the impossible. The chamber fell silent. The attendants stared at him, unable to hide their shock. Even the strongest aliens among them had never seen anything like this. Zalathra's eyes met Ethan's, and for the first time she showed more than curiosity, she showed awe. "You have done what no alien could do," she said softly. "You controlled the environment, guided the creatures, and used your tools with skill and precision. You have power that I did not anticipate." Ethan bowed slightly. "It is not a gift," he said. "It is human skill, intelligence, and patience. We survive by thinking, adapting, and using what we have. That is our true strength." The Queen studied him silently, her expression thoughtful. For centuries, her people had underestimated humans, believing them weak and fragile. Yet here was one human who had survived tests that would have killed the strongest alien cadets. He had controlled creatures, navigated impossible terrain, and used small tools to create enormous effects. It was impossible to ignore. "You are remarkable," Zalathra said at last. "I believed humans were weak. I believed they were fragile. But you have shown me a strength I could not have imagined. You are clever, calm, and extraordinarily capable. Your species is extraordinary." Ethan felt a quiet satisfaction. This was not about praise, reward, or recognition. It was about showing the truth. Humans had always been underestimated, dismissed, and overlooked. Yet their hidden strengths, their intelligence, adaptability, patience, and courage, made them capable of the impossible. And now the Queen had seen it with her own eyes. The attendants whispered among themselves, clearly amazed. Some bowed slightly, acknowledging his skill. Others simply stared, unable to believe what they had witnessed. Ethan smiled quietly. Humans were often overlooked, but when they revealed their true abilities, they could astonish even the most skeptical observers. Zalathra stepped forward. "Human, you have survived every test, solved every puzzle, and controlled every challenge I have placed before you. You have shown that strength is not only in size, power, or aggression. It is in intelligence, patience, and the ability to adapt. You have proven that humans are not to be underestimated." Ethan nodded. "I only acted as humans always do," he said. "We survive, we adapt, and we use our minds and our tools to achieve what others might think impossible. That is all." The Queen studied him for a long moment, her expression unreadable. Then she spoke again. "You are more than I expected. Perhaps humans are not merely small and weak. Perhaps they are a species to be respected, even feared in the right way. You have earned my respect, human, and the respect of this court. Ethan felt a quiet pride, though he did not let it show too much. Recognition was not the goal. The goal was to reveal the hidden strength of humans, to show that even the smallest and most underestimated beings could achieve greatness with intelligence, patience, and determination. The Queen raised her hand, signaling the end of the test. The attendants fell silent, their whispers replaced by awe. They had witnessed something extraordinary, a human controlling impossible circumstances, managing deadly creatures, and using small tools to create effects no alien could replicate. "You have changed my understanding," Zalithra said. "Perhaps the galaxy has judged your species too harshly. You are capable of things I could not have imagined. Humans are not weak. They are strong in ways we cannot easily see." Ethan smiled faintly. "Strength is not always obvious," he said. "It is in patience, intelligence, creativity, and courage. Humans survive because we think, adapt, and act when needed. That is our power." The Queen nodded slowly, clearly impressed. "I will remember this day," she said. "You, Ethan Clarke, have shown me the hidden strength of humanity. You have proven that even the smallest beings can change the course of events. This will not be forgotten." The attendants bowed, acknowledging his achievement. Some whispered to each other, amazed that a human had done what no alien had achieved. Ethan felt a quiet satisfaction. He had done more than survive. He had revealed the hidden strength of his species, showing that humans were clever, patient, adaptable, and brave. As night fell over the palace, Ethan stood by the window, looking out over the glowing forests of Krythos. The stars sparkled above, and the air hummed softly with life. He felt a deep sense of calm. The tests were over, the Queen had seen the truth, and the galaxy would never underestimate humans the same way again. Ethan Clarke had survived impossible odds, faced dangers that no alien cadet could manage, and revealed the hidden power of humans. He had shown the Queen that strength was not just in size or brute force, but in intelligence, patience, and the ability to act decisively when it mattered most. For the first time, he allowed himself a small sense of pride. Humans were underestimated, yes, but their true power was hidden, waiting for the right moment to be revealed. And today, that moment had come. Ethan Clarke smiled quietly to himself. The Queen had witnessed it. The attendants had witnessed it. And the galaxy would witness it too. Humans were not weak. Humans were capable of greatness beyond imagination. The future of interstellar relations had changed because of a single human, calm, clever, and patient. And that human, Ethan Clarke, had shown the universe that the true strength of humanity could not be measured by size, speed, or brute force. It was measured by intelligence, courage, and the hidden power that only humans could reveal. He stepped back from the window, feeling the calm of the palace surround him. He had completed the ultimate challenge. He had earned the Queen's respect. And he had proven the truth. Humans were extraordinary, underestimated, and capable of changing the course of the galaxy with nothing more than their mind, their courage, and their hidden power. Ethan Clarke smiled one last time that night. The galaxy had seen a glimpse of human greatness, and the story of this day would never be forgotten. The Queen, Zalithra, was stunned, and humanity had secured a place in the stars that no one could ignore.